we can go in whatever direction you want.
Okay.
But I guess to start off, did you found this reptile center, and how long have you been working here?
So, yes, I built both of these businesses. The property is mine and my wife. And the Venom business has been here for 27 years.
Okay.
In that time, I was flying. I was a pilot for 22 years.
Okay.
While I built the Venom business. So the Venom business is tiny. It's really specialized, very fickle, very unpredictable. So when I started building that business, I knew I was going to have another means of income. So that's why I worked as a pilot for so many years, because my Venom business couldn't go out of business that way. So I did that for years. And then once we got it up and running, the Venom business stable, and we started to develop our own customer base, which is pretty limited. Then I opened it to the public 18 years ago.
Okay.
So the whole place has kind of been a lifelong process, if you will, starting in my home with a small number of venomous snakes.
So how many centers are there like this in the U.S. that extract venom?
There are only about 5 production facilities in North America. One is associated with the university, run primarily for research on research grants. One outfit is primarily veterinary. They produce venom for a vaccine, a canine vaccine. They do that almost exclusively. And then 3 of us are kind of large-scale operations that are open to the public, and you can see venom production like you saw today, and maintain a large, varied number of snakes for a host of projects, including antivenom.
I saw that you had mostly native Florida snakes, venomous snakes, and then the monocled cobra. Are there any snakes that you would need venom for that you don't have here, or that you would like to get?
There's always a few things you might be looking for, but typically if we're going to start a so let me clarify. Right now, I think you saw 5 species today, plus the Tertiopelo, the fertile ants. Those are all current active contracts. They're venoms I'm producing right now, either for antivenom projects or for research, biochemical companies, enzyme purification, that kind of thing. So those species, to give you a sense of it, I have 100 Asian cobras. I have 5 king cobras, because I just don't need a lot of king cobra venom. We don't sell a lot of it. I've got tons of it in the freezer. So on those lines, you develop the lines that make economic sense and that are viable. I advertise about 25 different species of venoms. About half of that number are currently in production. They're snakes we're handling right now and in stock. But the other half of that stock is venom I may have produced 15 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and just feel like we have enough of it now that if it were needing to be represented in some kind of a research application, we've got plenty. And we could grow the line if we had to. The truth of it is, the snakes that we need more of are snakes we're already producing. Coral snakes, we have 50 coral snakes on the venom line, we could use 150. Eastern diamondback rattlesnakes, 50 snakes on the venom line, we could use 150. So it's like that. The big projects tend to be big, and your smaller projects you tend to have covered. But we have on site about 70 different species of venomous snake.
So on that, how are you getting new snakes? Where would you go?
Yeah, most of them are born and raised here, the ones we really need. Coral snakes tend to be nuisance removals. They're local, they're native. They tend to be snakes that people picked up in their backyard or have called us to come and remove. Cottonmouths born and raised here, Eastern diamondbacks born and raised here, all of the monocled cobras you saw today born and raised here. We get some snakes as zoo surplus. Some snakes we purchase. If we need to start a new project, I might buy a group of black mambas from Tanzania, let's say, and then try to reproduce those or produce them here if we need more. And some snakes we collect. We'll go out to certain areas in the winter for rattlesnakes or that kind of thing and collect small numbers of snakes to seed the line. So it's kind of a variety of sources.
With the cobras, I know those aren't native here. Are you selling any of this venom overseas? Or is it all
We
domestic?
sell venoms all over the world, actually, but Cobra venom is unique in that there are a number of applications for it here in the United States. And if you try to buy Cobra venom from Asia, let's say, there's all of the same red tape you would run into if you were trying to import the animals. Asian cobras are protected. They're on CITES. They're Appendix 2 animals because of the skin trade. And so if you went to Asia to buy your Cobra venom and you were a lab in Florida, you would have a mountain of red tape in front of you. But if you buy your Cobra venom from me, all of your Cobra paperwork has already been taken care of with the animals, and now all the animals are captive produced. So a lab in North America can buy Cobra venom without having to go through CITES paperwork and that kind of thing. And there are enough applications for Cobra venoms outside of antivenom in physiological research and this kind of thing that it's a good venom for us to be doing.
Yeah, can you tell me more about that? What are some applications outside of antivenom?
Yeah, so snake venoms in general, oftentimes people say, oh, snake venom, a cure for cancer. Snake venom itself, whole venom, is not a cure for anything. It's what makes you sick and can kill you. So, and they're designed to do that. Snake venoms have evolved to kill the snake, to immobilize the snake's prey as rapidly as possible. But snake venoms are complex mixtures of all kinds of things, proteins and peptides and enzymes. And all of those little components, those fractions in the snake venom, those individual chemicals, have some kind of a biochemical, a physiological action. They may bind to a certain type of cell. They may destroy a cell wall. They may impede the clotting process or speed up the clotting process. They may. So what happens is people use those venoms in immunological applications, in blood chemistry applications, in blood clotting cascade applications, neuromuscular research, pain meds, Alzheimer's, viral research. All of those things may involve a snake venom enzyme or a snake venom protein that are doing something. Nerve and muscle blockades, those kinds of things. So the science is often down at the molecular level and pretty sophisticated, but we are a factory, and so we provide venom on a large scale to a whole host of those applications across the world.
And I know I asked you this inside, but can you tell me again about the snake bites that you've had? Which one would you consider the worst, and is there any particular snake that is more difficult to handle than others?
Yeah, so I've had 11 snake bites over the past 35 years, and 9 of those resulted in, 8 of those, resulted in hospitalizations where I required antivenom. And we've had some rough snake bites. I had a cobra put me on a ventilator for 14 hours, had a big 9-foot black mamba bite, knocked me around pretty good. We had a eastern diamondback bite. I've had several of those, but the last one was to my face. 6 days in intensive care. I fell while I was handling the snake and drove it up into my face. So it's very hard to do this work for years on ends. We have hundreds of thousands of extractions now and never get it wrong. You know, sometimes you just make a mistake. So in terms of difficulty in handling, we try to handle different things in different manners based on the snake's movement, on how the snake is built, on how big the snake is. So all of those things weigh in. They factor in when we develop a handling technique for a snake. Are we going to use grab sticks or tubes, or we're always using hooks and pinning snakes, of course. So, and it's usually individuals within a group, perhaps more so than one general group. There, you can generalize a little bit. Certainly, New Guinea taipans, young black mambas or West African green mambas, Jameson's mambas, canteels. There are a whole bunch of bad guys, but in those groups, you're often going to have snakes that are reasonably well behaved and snakes that are very different. Snakes that are nervous and high strung and that kind of thing.
Do you have a favorite snake? Is there one that you like more than others?
Yeah, you know, my current favorite snake here at the center is we have a big 12.5-foot male king cobra named Cyrus, and Cyrus is like a dragon. He's beautiful, and he produces huge amounts of venom, 1,200 milligrams, and a bite enough to kill like 60 people. And he's spirited and flawless. So he's probably my favorite snake currently. But my favorite kind of snakes, I think, it's hard for me to choose, but I think are eastern coral snakes. They're unique in so many ways, and so those are some of my favorites. Hard to choose. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of on that note, is there, from a conservation perspective, is there any snake that's at risk or their numbers are kind of down?
Yeah. Snakes are facing all kinds of pressures. Certainly when we talk about snake populations in North America or Florida in particular. But development is an enormous problem for snakes in general, overdevelopment. A lack of planning and conservation corridors, and there are ways where these things can be managed, just like wildlife of all kinds, that are probably lacking. We have additional pressures on some of North American snakes now and Florida snakes because of a parasite that came in with the Burmese pythons. When the pythons were introduced, it's a lungworm, a crustacean actually, but that's putting pressure on North American or certainly Florida natives that we weren't expecting. So people kill snakes. That's always been a problem. So there are a number, less so the skin trade now than at one time. Snake skin, the trade was at one time probably larger than it is now. People are becoming aware of wildlife pressures and managing things, but anyway, so lots of challenges, and certainly we're in the state of Florida, so those are the snakes we are most in tune with. The indigo snake is here. He's perhaps the only federally endangered snake currently listed. There might be one or two others, but he's facing a habitat destruction issue. The eastern diamondback facing a habitat destruction issue. So a lot of pressure on those groups.
So, you know, when I've been out in Ocala National Forest, I've seen eastern diamondbacks, coral snakes. What are those snakes mainly eating?
Well, coral snakes are kind of specialized feeders. They're primarily cannibals. They eat other snakes, all kinds of species of small snakes. Coral snakes are fossorial. They're found largely underground. So they're feeding on lots of other fossorial snakes, crown snakes and pinewood snakes and red-bellied snakes, and also juvenile racers and rat snakes. They also eat a host of small lizard species as well. So coral snakes are kind of specialized feeders. The rest of our pit vipers in Florida, the pygmy rattlesnake starts out primarily on cold-blooded food, but then kind of becomes a generalist as he ages. But eastern diamondbacks, copperheads, cottonmouths, also a generalist. They're kind of feeding on rodents. Mm-hmm. The eastern diamondback also eats rabbits, certainly as a large adult, but rodents, rats and mice, chickens, birds, those guys make up a large part of their diet. And then, like I said, some snakes, generalists, cottonmouths will eat anything: fish, frogs, amphibians, birds, eggs, snakes, rats, mice, anything they can get. And there are other snakes. Cobras are like that too, very much generalists.
Cool, very cool. Well, thank you again, and very much enjoyed the snake extraction. And
you bet, Phil.
It's very good, very cool.
My pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure.